The following program is a recording of a live broadcast transmitted 7 a.m. Beijing time.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you by China Radio International.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday, December the 29th, 2017. Welcome to the Beijing Hour. We're live from the Chinese capital. And on the program this morning, the Chinese president and the country's envoys to foreign countries have met and talked about major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. Chinese defense authorities are offering new insights regarding control of the country's armed police. And South Korea's president said a deal with Japan on the comfort women issue is flawed. In business, improving the business environment for foreign banks in China. In sports, Feng Xiaoting has been voted as the Chinese Footballer of the Year. Entertainment, China's most talked about cultural TV shows of this year. First of all, a check of the day's headline news. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on China and Japan to enhance party-to-party exchanges and cooperation during a meeting with the delegation of Japan's ruling coalition. The president hailed the China-Japan ruling party exchange meeting for its role in promoting bilateral relations. He also praised the role of the Secretary Generals of Japan's Liberal Democratic Party and Komeito Party in boosting bilateral friendship. The Japanese delegation arrived in Beijing after this year's meeting of the China-Japan ruling party exchange in Fujian. Chinese police say they have cracked a fentanyl manufacturing and trafficking case based on tips from the United States. 19 suspects have been detained during 2 raids over the past couple of months in Hebei, Jiangsu, Shanghai, and Zhejiang. The raids were carried out following leads from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and police in Guangdong province. Officers have discovered an illegal fentanyl factory and 2 trading locations for drugs. Around 5 kilograms of fentanyl, along with over 20 kilograms of other psychoactive substances and 150 kilograms of raw materials, have been confiscated. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid pain reliever. China and the United States agreed to enhance joint crackdowns on that drug after its abuse became a serious problem. Newly released figures show over 42,000 people in China have been prosecuted in the first 11 months of this year on charges such as child abuse, indecency with children, and child trafficking. At the same time, over 31,000 more were arrested on suspicion of these crimes. Prosecutors have provided more than 22,000 victims with various legal aid, psychological services, and rehabilitation treatments. Prosecutors have also made suggestions to the court on banning suspects re-entry into child-related occupations. Chinese scientists have unveiled a plan to build a village simulating the environmental conditions on Mars. The project, as part of China's Mars exploration preparation, will get underway in Qinghai province. The village will be constructed in the red rock area of a Kaidam Basin in western Qinghai. The place has been dubbed the most Martian place on Earth. The village is to cover over 700 hectares and consist of a tourism center, a Mars community, a simulation base, and other facilities. Total investments estimated at 850 million yuan. Police in Moscow have detained a man suspected of shooting dead a security guard at a local confectionery factory. The suspect, also the factory's former owner, has been delivered to an office of the Russian Investigative Committee for interrogation. He reportedly killed the guard in a clash with the current management. According to a separate report by the office of the Moscow prosecutor, the shooting happened after bailiffs came to collect money from the indebted factory following a ruling by the Moscow Arbitration Court. The suspect has confessed to shooting one person, adding that he was the victim of an illegal seizure of his property and of an armed attack. A criminal case has been initiated against him for homicide and illegal possession of weapons.
ChinaPlus.cri.cn is your home for everything you want to know about China.
China and everything China-related from around the world.
Everything in focus, all in one place, bringing you vital information for your business and travel.
Chinese culture, language learning, and more.
ChinaPlus.cri.cn.
ChinaPlus.cri.cn. Your portal into today's Middle Kingdom.
About 5 minutes past the hour. With the new year around the corner, Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with Chinese diplomatic envoys to foreign countries. A main topic of the meeting was the major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. And CRS Trevor Grant has more.
Xi Jinping hailed the hard work of the diplomatic envoys and lauded the accomplishments that the diplomatic work has achieved in the past 5 years. He stated that socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered a new era, suggesting that diplomats learn to understand the trend of the times and the international situation.
放眼世界，我们面对的是100年未有之大变局。
Have a look at the world. We are facing unprecedented changes. The fast development of emerging economies and developing countries since the start of the new century, and the trends toward a multipolar world and an increasingly balanced global landscape are irreversible. Through unremitting efforts of the Chinese people under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, the Chinese nation has stood up and prospered in a splendid transformation. People from all ethnic groups unswervingly follow the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics, reform and opening up, never recede or deviate while opening new avenues, achieving remarkable results in development and showing a promising prospect.
Xi Jinping said diplomats must absolutely remain loyal to the party, to the country, and to the people. He suggested diplomatic envoys should resolutely safeguard national interests and national dignity, make their contributions to the country, and serve the people. He also asked the diplomats to promote the building of a new type of international relations with win-win cooperation at the core, as well as the building of a community with a shared future for mankind. He said that Chinese diplomatic envoys could continue to boost understanding and friendship between China and foreign countries.
要深化全方位外交布局，拓展全球伙伴关系网络。
More efforts should be done to expand the diplomatic layout, build a global partnership network, and enlarge China's friend circle. It's necessary to advance the Belt and Road construction, deepen comprehensive cooperation with countries around the world, and promote common development. Diplomats should actively participate in global governance and multilateral affairs, safeguard the interests of Chinese nationals and humankind. We also need to make stories about China, its party and people, well received by foreigners so as to further deepen mutual understanding.
The Chinese leader stressed that the diplomatic team should enhance capacity building and acquire the ability to learn more and keep their knowledge up to date. He also demanded strict compliance with political discipline for diplomats. For CRI, this is Zhi Guang.
Chinese authorities say diplomats in Iceland have activated an emergency response plan after a traffic accident left 1 Chinese dead and 11 others injured. A tour bus carrying 44 Chinese tourists rolled over before noon on Wednesday in a town around 250 kilometers south of Iceland's capital, Reykjavik. 1 passenger was killed on the spot, while all the injured were sent to a major hospital in the capital city. At this point, 2 passengers are receiving treatment in the ICU of the hospital, while the others are in stable condition. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying said the Chinese embassy staff have been trying to provide all necessary assistance.
The embassy immediately launched an emergency response, sent staff to hospital to visit and comfort injured tourists. At the same time, they contacted officials in Iceland and asked them to do their utmost to treat the injured and investigate the cause of the accident. Meanwhile, they urged the travel agency to deal with the aftermath of the accident.
The relatives and family members of all those who were seriously injured have been contacted. The Chinese embassy said it'll facilitate their visits to Iceland. Chinese defense authorities have said the shift of command over the country's armed police will not change the fundamental functions of the paramilitary force. Defense Ministry spokesman Ren Guoqiang.
The key and core of this adjustment of the command over the armed police is to strengthen the centralized and unified leadership of the CPC Central Committee and the CMC over the armed police. The fundamental functions of the armed police will not change after the adjustment, nor will it be listed into the People's Liberation Army.
As planned, the paramilitary force will be commanded by the Communist Party of China's Central Committee and the Central Military Commission starting from January the 1st. It'll no longer be listed under the State Council. The Chinese armed police are tasked with maintaining national security and safeguarding people living and working in contentment. Its major tasks range from performing guard duty, handling emergencies, to fighting terrorism and conducting disaster relief. China's top legislatures released 2 regulations on the use of consultation and third-party evaluation in lawmaking activities. The regulations are expected to help legislators play a better role in expressing, balancing, and adjusting social interests. Zhang Tianwei, with the Legislative Affairs Commission of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, explains under what circumstances the consultations will be required.
Consultations will be required for legislation involving major adjustments of rights or obligations among natural persons, incorporated or unincorporated bodies, or involving major adjustments of interests between different groups, or involving contradiction facing social and economic development or hot issues raising widespread public concerns.
He adds that consultations could take the form of demonstration meetings, project studies, or even hearings.
If the legislation involves major adjustments of interests, or if the lawmakers are greatly divided on some of its decisions, affecting the rights or obligations of natural persons, incorporated or unincorporated bodies, and raising public concerns, a hearing will be required so that opinions and advices from all sides whose interests are directly affected can be properly listened to.
Third-party evaluations are required for legislation arousing widespread controversy, and the process can be entrusted to entities such as research institutions or think tanks. The outcome reports of both categories will serve as important references for the legislative process. China's top legislatures listed the country's first Antarctic law into its legislation plan. The Standing Committee of the National People's Congress has approved a report from the Chinese Environment and Resources Protection Committee. The report says Antarctica is a new strategic region related to future national security and development. In May, China published its first full report on its undertakings in Antarctica over the past 3 decades, titled China's Antarctic Activities. It suggested the Antarctic law could help China protect its resource use and joint future development interests in the area. The legislation is expected to start following the annual plenary session of the NPC in March. China on Thursday launched the world's largest human genome research project of 100,000 people. Scientists hope to study the relationship between diseases and genetic inheritance. Wang Yedong is the lead scientist on this project.
The main purpose of our project is to study how the ordinary Chinese get sick and how the interaction between genes and the environment affects people's health. The program can provide reference to China's medical research, clinical diagnosis, and treatment remedies.
The project will sequence 100,000 whole genomes from the Han people and 9 other ethnic groups, each with a population of over 5 million. The project's scheduled to complete all genome sequencing and information analysis within 4 years, which will make it the fastest genome research project in the world. On Thursday, China extended its visa-free period for people transiting through Beijing to 144 hours and added neighboring Hebei province and Tianjin City to that program. This means that air, train, and ship passengers traveling to another destination via a stopover in the region can enter China for 6 days without a visa. Chu Lei, deputy director of the port office in Beijing, introduced the 6-day visa-free entry policy on Thursday.
The international travelers with valid travel documents and a connecting ticket can choose one of the 6 assigned ports. They are Beijing Capital International Airport, Beijing West Railway Station, Tianjin Binhai International Airport, Tianjin International Cruise Home Port, Shijiazhuang Zhengding International Airport, and Qinhuangdao Port. Visitors traveling within the Beijing-Tianjin region must register with police within 24 hours if they are staying at accommodation other than hotels. The policy is effective for 53 countries on the list.
Beijing cities offered a 72-hour visa-free transit period since 2013. In 2016, the border office recorded more than 26,000 such transit visits, up 32% from the previous year. Yu Ganxian is the deputy director of the Beijing Tourism Development Committee, and he says a number of travel agencies have been tasked with developing tour packages to start taking advantage of the new policy.
Our products will highlight the Chinese traditional culture. We divide our products into several parts, such as cultural heritage, imperial city culture, and traditional Chinese medicine. Besides, we will promote more products covering the 3 regions, and the extended hours allow international travelers to have more time to schedule their trips.
In 2016, Shanghai and the provinces of Jiangsu and Zhejiang in East China took the lead in permitting 144-hour visa-free entry. The Ministry of Environmental Protection says the country is on course to fulfill the goals set out in the National Action Plan to improve air quality. The central government unveiled a 5-year Clean Air Action Plan in 2013, aiming to improve air quality through measures such as closing factories, limiting car use, and reducing the reliance of the country on coal by replacing it with cleaner energy sources. Liu Yobin, spokesperson for the ministry, has detailed the progress made in the first 11 months of 2017, the final year of this action plan.
From January to November in 2017, the density of PM10 nationwide has dropped to 21.5% compared with the same period in the year 2013, with the density of PM2.5 falling by 38.2%, 31.7%, and 25.6% in the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei region, Yangtze River Delta, and Pearl River Delta, respectively. Among them, the concentration of PM2.5 in Beijing is close to 60 microgram per cubic meter. It's believed we can reach the goal of improving the air quality based on the current data and the study of the weather condition in the coming 3 days.
Over the past 5 years, China has already built the world's largest network of low-emissions coal-fired power stations. The country has transitioned 68% of the country's total installed capacity of coal-fired power plants to ultra-low-emission technology. The low-emissions plants have a combined capacity of 640 million kilowatts. Officials say the shift to low-emissions technology has resulted in an over 80% decrease in sulfur dioxide emissions, a 50% cut in nitrogen oxides, and a nearly 70% reduction in particulate pollution. And with more on China's air quality, Sierra Sui earlier spoke with Ma Jun, director with the Institute of Public and Environment Affairs.
Basically, the government pledged this 4 years ago by setting a 10-point guideline document back in 2013 to address air pollution, which is a 5-year roadmap. And now they deliver. Goals set for this year are sure to be met. But we know a year ago, we heard media reports and government officials say it was quite unlikely. So it sounds like a nice surprise, but what changed the course?
It is a nice surprise. It's a combination of the human efforts made and the kind of a more favorable weather condition. On the weather side, in Beijing and the Hebei, Tianjin surrounding regions, over the past 4 years, every year when we enter into the autumn and winter season, we're seeing the atmosphere got quite still, not much wind, and sometimes we're suffering from inversion. Especially in Beijing, we're often having very weak winds, and the wind direction is coming from the south, carrying all this polluted air from the North China Plain all the way to Beijing. But this year, this has very much been changed. Every 2-3 days, there's a cold air coming from Siberia, Mongolia plateau, and this has considerably improved conditions for the dispersing of the air pollution. Having said that, the human efforts made is also significant. From the early this year, the Ministry of Environmental Protection has drafted 5,600 inspectors from all over China to concentrate in Beijing and the surrounding region, checking tens of thousands of factories and shutting down quite some of them for their violations, and then pushing for the nearly 3 million household heating from coal to natural gas. So all of this efforts made, and also a special action plan after the heating season was adopted in 28 cities surrounding Beijing, and some of the dirtiest industries have been ordered to shutting down, suspend half of the capacity. like steel manufacturing and cement manufacturing and the earth excavation and demolition. All these projects have been suspended for 3 months. So all this effort has been made and has been very much helpful.
That's Ma Jun from the Institute of Public and Environment Affairs speaking with CRI Sui. The Chinese sailing team Daruchi has set a new line honors record for China at the prestigious Sydney-Hobart Yacht Race. More details now from CRI's Australia correspondent Xi Zhi.
At 1:35 p.m. on Thursday, Daruchi crossed the finish line at Constitution Dock in Hobart, becoming the 21st team to finish the 620 nautical mile race. Their record of 2 days and 35 minutes is almost 4 hours ahead of that of U-Box from Shenzhen, the best performing Chinese team in last year's race. On the main handicap category, Daruchi now stands at 18, its best finish in 3 years. Skipper Dong Xing is excited about the result.
It seems we've pulled up the best win for China in this race. Last year, U-Box took about 54 hours, and now we've smashed that record, so I feel really excited. However, we can clearly see the gap between us and those first-class teams, and we need to work much harder.
This is the third appearance for the Shanghai-based sailing team in a renowned offshore yacht race. One of the crew, former Asian Games sailing champion Shen Shen, says the team fought a good fight.
Overall, it's been a smooth run for us, no major mistakes. We fought really hard as a team, inch by inch, and that's how we pulled off so well. Every one of us had the motivation to forge ahead and fight.
A record 7 teams with Chinese elements have been competing in this year's race in Australia, reflecting a fast-growing interest in sailing back in China. Among those who greeted Daruchi at the finish line in Hobart was Karen Gregor, CEO of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, the organizer of the Sydney-Hobart race.
I said to them, hopefully third time lucky, and third time very lucky. They had a tough run first time and second time, and, they've been very serious about wanting to do well, and they've been in Sydney training since September, and I think they've put the effort in, but they've now got the rewards. Cruising Yacht Club's very proud to have the Daruchi, or ARC 323 as it was, as a competitor, and they really have competed this year.
As of Thursday night, around 30 teams out of 102 have completed the race. The day's dramatic news came after the 100-foot Comanche, which finished second on Wednesday night, was declared this year's winner of the line honors, as its main rival, Wild Oats 11, was penalized by 1 hour for breaking race rules. For CRI, this is Xi Zhi reporting from Hobart, Australia.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in has said the country's agreement with Japan to settle a decades-long impasse over the comfort women issue is seriously flawed. His spokesman announced the statement on Thursday.
2015년 한일 양국 정부 간 위안부 협상은
It was confirmed that the 2015 South Korea-Japan deal over victims of Japan's wartime sex slavery was seriously flawed in both procedure and content. It is regrettable but inescapable. It is very painful not only because the deal not only violated the international community's universal principles for resolving historical issues, but also because it was a political agreement excluding victims and our people. Also, the existence of a private agreement has greatly disappointed our people.
Well, meantime, Moon Jae-in has also vowed unspecified follow-up measures to resolve the issue. His statement came a day after a state-appointed panel concluded that Seoul's previous government failed to properly communicate with the victims before reaching the deal. It comes 2 years after both countries declared the deal as final and irreversible. The South Korean Foreign Ministry has said government officials will hold extensive discussions with victims and experts before deciding whether to pursue changes to the deal. But Japanese officials have said a renegotiation is unacceptable. Under the 2015 deal, Japan apologized to former comfort women and provided about $9 million to a fund to help them. But the victims protested against it, urging Japan to sincerely apologize for its wartime atrocity and annul the pact as well. Former professional footballer George Weah wept with joy on Thursday on winning Liberia's presidential election. The country's electoral commission said the ex-striker had taken over 61% of the vote from 98% of ballots cast. Weah's supporter was excited to hear the primary result.
He's not educated, he's not competent, but this is the man that his dream come true. I'm too overexcited. Just we are the president of Liberia.
Well, full results are not expected until later today, and neither candidates made a public comment just yet. 51-year-old Weah grew up in poverty in Liberia's capital, Monrovia. He went on to have a glittering football career in the 1990s, becoming the only African to win FIFA World Player of the Year trophy and the Ballon d'Or. This is the second time that he's run for the presidency in Liberia, the first time being back in 2005. The U.S. state of Alabama on Thursday officially certified Democrat Doug Jones' victory in this month's special Senate election, despite fraud claims by his opponent, Roy Moore. John H. Merrill, Alabama Secretary of State, made clear that they found no evidence of voting irregularities.
We have had an inordinate number of calls from people who have asked us not to certify the elections today. Hardly any of them that have been introduced to me have offered a reason for non-certification except for the fact that they're disappointed in the results of the election process.
Jones defeated Moore on December the 12th by roughly 22,000 votes, making him the first Democrat in 25 years to win a House seat in traditionally Republican Alabama. Moore, whose campaign was dogged by sexual misconduct accusations, refused to concede defeat and even filed a lawsuit on Wednesday, raising claims of election fraud. A string of suicide bombings in Kabul has left 41 dead and 84 others injured. The attacks occurred after the assailants struck the Tebian Social and Cultural Center in the Afghan capital. Sayed Jan, who was wounded in the blast, says a meeting was underway inside that building.
There was a book reading program and academic dialogue, and I was one of the participants. During the speech, a huge bang was heard and smoke rose from inside the hall. My face was burning. I fell down from the chair and I saw the other colleagues around me on the ground. The smoke was everywhere. I don't know what happened next.
Most of the injured are suffering from serious burns, with 5 of them in critical condition. Further attacks against security forces are feared. The Islamic State terrorist group has claimed responsibility for the incident. We're at 28 minutes past the hour. Beijing will be cloudy today with a high of 4 degrees Celsius, a low down to -1. Guangzhou is cloudy in 23, a low of 14. Xiamen sunny in 23, a low of 14. Taipei has a light rain in 20, a low of 17. Sancho will be cloudy in 27, then a low of 24. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be sunny in 23. Kabul is sunny and 3 degrees. In North America, Washington, D.C. will be cloudy with a high of 0 degrees Celsius on the day. In Africa, Nairobi is getting a light rain in 24. It's time for a short break here on the Beijing Hour. Still to come in business, improving the business environment for foreign banks in China. In sports, Feng Xiaoting has been voted as the Chinese Footballer of the Year. Entertainment, China's most talked about cultural TV shows of this year. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
Listening to the Beijing Hour. 60 minutes of comprehensive news. Your window on China and the world.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you by China Radio International.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday morning. Still to come in business, the rising cost of gasoline and diesel in China. In sports, Sichuan's lengthy losing streak in the CBA is finally over. Entertainment, an exciting and lucrative year at the Chinese box office. Get in touch with us by email, beijinghour@cri.com.cn. Download the China Plus app or visit chinaplus.cri.cn for the latest news and information from China Radio International. Now, a check of the day's headline news. And Chinese President Xi Jinping and Malawi President Peter Mutharika have exchanged messages of congratulations on the 10th anniversary of the establishment of bilateral ties. In the message, Xi Jinping said China stands ready to continue to deepen the bilateral relationship. Mutharika congratulated Xi Jinping on being re-elected as the General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee. Chinese presidents met with Chinese diplomatic envoys to foreign countries, urging them to promote the major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. As part of the meeting, Xi Jinping suggested diplomats learn to understand the trend of the times and the international situation. He said diplomats must absolutely remain loyal to the party, to the country, and to the people. He also demanded strict compliance with political discipline for diplomats. China's top legislature has listed the country's first Antarctic law into its legislation plan. The Standing Committee of the National People's Congress has approved a report from the Chinese Environment and Resources Protection Committee. The report says Antarctica is a new strategic region related to future national security and development. In May, China published its first full report on its undertakings in Antarctica over the past 3 decades, titled China's Antarctic Activities. It suggested the Antarctic law could help China protect its resource use and joint future development interests in the area. The legislation is expected to start following the annual plenary session of the NPC in March. Chinese police say they've cracked a fentanyl manufacturing and trafficking case based on tips from the United States. 19 suspects have been detained during 2 raids over the past 2 months in Hebei, Jiangsu, Shanghai, and Zhejiang. The raids were carried out following leads from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and police in Guangdong province. Officers have discovered an illegal fentanyl factory and 2 trading locations for drugs. Around 5 kilograms of fentanyl, along with over 20 kilograms of other psychoactive substances and 150 kilograms of raw materials, have been confiscated. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid pain reliever. China and the U.S. agreed to enhance joint crackdowns on its use after its abuse became a serious problem. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has said the country's agreement with Japan to settle a decades-long impasse over the comfort women issue is seriously flawed. He also vowed unspecified follow-up measures to resolve the issue. The statement came a day after a state-appointed panel concluded that Seoul's previous government failed to properly communicate with the victims before reaching that deal. It comes 2 years after both countries declared that the deal was final and irreversible. The South Korean Foreign Ministry has said government officials will hold extensive discussions with victims and experts before deciding whether to pursue changes to that deal. But Japanese officials have said a renegotiation is unacceptable. It's 34 past the hour. Turning to business news. We'll start with a check on closing numbers in North America and Europe. U.S. stocks traded slightly higher on Thursday as trading remains thin in a holiday-shortened week. According to 2018 market outlook released by Bank of America Merrill Lynch, earnings expectations for next year look decent, but they could be great with tax reform. On the economic front, in the week ending December 23rd, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted initial claims was 245,000, and that's unchanged from the previous week. The 4-week moving average was 237,750, an increase of 1,750 from the previous week's unrevised average of 236,000. At the closing bell, the Dow Jones added a 0.1%. The S&P 500 was basically flat. The Nasdaq rallied more than a 0.1%. European stocks finished mixed in thin trade on Thursday, with a few fresh catalysts to send markets higher in the penultimate trading session of the year. At the close, the UK's FTSE 100 gained less than a 0.1%. Germany's DAX dropped by 0.7%, and France's CAC 40 was down by 0.6%. Chinese banking regulator says the country will further cut red tape to create a better business environment for foreign banks. An official statement says the China Banking Regulatory Commission will revise rules on administrative licensing for foreign banks to minimize the approval items and unify market entry standards for Chinese and foreign banks. The regulator will clarify procedures and application materials for foreign and joint venture banks to invest in domestic banking institutions after a notice issued in March approved approved such behavior. According to the revised rules, foreign banks will only need to report to authorities after they launch certain services rather than obtaining approval in advance. The public has until January 27th of next year to give suggestions on the revised rules. Fuel prices are up in China. Top economic planner says the retail prices of gasoline and diesel will both rise by 70 yuan per ton starting from today. For drivers, that means the average tank of fuel will cost roughly 2.5 yuan more than it did before. This is the 11th time this year that fuel prices have been raised. Chinese authorities say, or they adjust the price every 10 working days if international crude prices move by more than 50 yuan per ton during that period. Manufacturing of the new Chinese-made MA700 plane has started. The MA700 project is part of China's strategy in developing both the country's trunk airliners and regional planes. It's a high-speed turbo-engine regional plane. It's designed to accommodate up to 85 passengers with a maximum takeoff weight of 27.6 tons. It can perform well under tropical or plateau conditions. The MA700's received 185 orders from 11 clients worldwide so far. The plane's expected to conduct its maiden flight in November of 2019, and it'll be delivered to the market after receiving certificates from aviation authorities by 2021. A Chinese company has built the country's largest factory for producing electricity-generating see-through glass, which can be used to turn a whole building into a solar power generator. The company says each sheet of the 1.6 meter by 1.2 meter glass can generate 260 kilowatt hours of electricity each year. Based in Chengdu, the company's factory began operations in November. Zheng said they coat ordinary construction glass with cadmium telluride. The optoelectronic film is as thin as 1/100th of a hair. A technology inspector says the per-unit size of the company's electricity-generating glass sheet was the largest in the world so far. Those produced by foreign firms were less than 1 square meters at the largest. A high-speed railway linking Shijiazhuang and Jinan has started operation. The line creates a bridge between two key north-to-south lines, the Beijing-Guangzhou and Beijing-Shanghai express rail lines, and further integrates China's express rail network. Trains run at a speed of 250 kilometers per hour. The new line has cut travel times to 2 hours and 9 minutes from more than 3.5 hours. Construction of that railway started back in 2014. The electric railway linking Harbin with Manjoli City has been put back into service. The reconstruction project started in April of 2015, including changing rail tracks and renovating communications information, power supply, electricity, and signal systems. The speed of the train driving on the railway was designed to reach 120 kilometers per hour. Zheng Dejun is the manager of this railway project.
The project was actually to renovate the existing lines and railways, involving difficulties similar to heart stenting surgery. It also needed to pass the test of safety and technical performance in the extreme cold weather. So far, the communication information, traction power supply, electricity and signal systems have all met the technical standards, capable of going to operation safely.
The cargo transportation capability of that railway will be improved by 40% compared with before. South Korean manufacturer LG Display is planning to invest around $4.7 billion to build an organic light-emitting diode panel production plant in Guangzhou. And that company will take a 70% stake in the plant. The new factory will be the company's first overseas OLED plant and its second production line in Guangzhou. The factory is expected to achieve mass production in the second quarter of 2019, manufacturing 60,000 OLED panels a month, which will be used for large-sized televisions. The company says this is the first time a South Korean firm will transfer such sophisticated technology abroad. Shenzhen has put more than 16,000 purely electric buses on its roads so far, making a all of the city's buses go green. Shenzhen has built more than 500 bus charging stations and installed 5,000 charging facilities from 2009. The city is also promoting electric cabs with more than 12,500 running on its roads. It is expected to replace its entire fleet of cabs with environmentally friendly ones by 2020. China, or rather currently many Chinese cities, are encouraging clean energy-powered transport as part of the country's efforts to protect the environment. Shanxi's capital, Taiyuan, has made all of its cabs electric. The city also plans to add 1,000 electric buses next year. Mobike has filed a lawsuit against a Shanghai-based company for illegally putting advertisements on its bikes. Mobike says Shanghai Huijia put seat covers printed with advertisements on around 200,000 mobikes in cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. And it says that Huijia took advantage of Mobike's users and reputation to promote its own brand and services, and claims that's damaged Mobike's image. The bike-sharing company filed a lawsuit in a local court in mid-December, demanding compensation of 1 million yuan, as well as a public announcement to alleviate the negative impact of the actions from Huijia. The court accepted the case on Wednesday. The company's made no response so far. The Chinese securities regulators demanded that Le co-founder Jia Yueting return to the country within a week to deal with the group's financial problems. A court in Beijing ordered Jia's return before the end of the year in a notice posted on its website. The watchdog said the companies under Jia's control owe huge amounts of money to peer-listed firms and urged him to fulfill his obligations and help address the financial risks at the company. Zhao Shijun is Executive Deputy Director of the Finance and Securities Institute under the Renmin University of China.
This is the first time that a regulator has issued a notice demanding someone who is under its supervision and staying abroad to return to cooperate in investigations. The regulator is performing its responsibilities and exercising its rights as a supervisor.
Zhao left for the United States on July 4th, and experts say it's still unclear whether he'll comply with the order and deal with his company's debt.
Everything in focus, all in one place. China Plus focuses on the Middle Kingdom, bringing you breaking news and the stories that matter to you. Search for China Plus in the App Store or Google Play.
43 minutes past the hour, turning to sports now. Guangzhou Evergrande striker Feng Xiaoting has been voted as the Chinese Footballer of the Year. Feng's garnered 441 points from voting organized by the leading Chinese sports media, Titan Sports, beating Shanghai SIPG striker Wu Lei. Wu has 391 points from that voting, 112 points ahead of third-place Evergrande veteran Zheng Zhi. Tianjin Chuanjian goalkeeper and captain Zheng Lu finished 7th on that table, which is dominated by strikers and midfielders. Wang Shuang was named the Women's Footballer of the Year. She scored 5 goals and had 6 assists for the women's national team this year. Xu Genbao won the Best Coach Award after the 73-year-old led Shanghai to 3 successive championships at the Chinese National Games. Hamed Habadi's double-double helped Sichuan to take a comeback victory over Shenzhen, 122-105 in the Chinese Basketball Association. And with that, Sichuan's 12-game losing streak is finally over. Haddadi, who returned from a 2-game absence, had 28 points and 16 rebounds. Shandong smashed Aolong 127-90. Deng Yanyuheng made a team-high 26 points. Former NBA star Stephen Marbury only scored 8 points and 1 rebound for Aolong. Jiangsu beat Fujian 130-112 in a seesaw duel. Marshawn Brooks made his first triple-double of the season with a game-high 45 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists for the hosts. From the National Curling Tournament in Harbin, Heilongjiang Province, Zhang Yilun's team led the women's table and has taken a spot in the semifinals. Heilongjiang's first team has earned a spot as well, along with Jilin Provincial Team and Harbin's first team. Zhang Yilun is a member of the Chinese women's national curling team, and she's the skip of her team at this tournament, and the team's being named after her. The team's undefeated at the tournament. On the men's side, Harbin's first team kept expanding its advantage and beat the team from the Shanghai Institute of Foreign Trade 8-1. And for now, the top 4 teams in the men's field are Harbin's first team, Heilongjiang's first team, Harbin Harbin's third team and Zhejiang's provincial team. The week-long tournament kicked off on December 24th, attracting 30 teams from all over China. The semifinals and finals will be held later on today. In the NBA, action starts at 8 in the morning, Beijing time. Detroit's at Orlando. At 9 o'clock, it's Houston at Boston and Minnesota at Milwaukee. Half an hour later, it'll be the New York Knicks at the San Antonio Spurs. Philadelphia plays at Portland starting at 11:30 this morning. In the NHL, the first three games today will be underway at 8:30, and those are Montreal at Tampa Bay, Boston at Washington, and Philadelphia at Florida. That's followed by Toronto at Arizona coming up at 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, it's Chicago at Vancouver and Vegas at Los Angeles. The final game is Calgary at San Jose, starting at 11:30 in the morning, Beijing time. From the annual World Junior Hockey Tournament, Canada leads Group A and the overall tournament with 2 wins in 2 games. Earlier in action from Group B, Finland beat Denmark 4-1 and Russia beat Switzerland 5-2. Later on in Group A, Czech Republic will take on Sweden and Slovakia faces the host team from the USA. The tournament's being played in Buffalo, New York. Cristiano Ronaldo was named the best player of the year, while Zinedine Zidane was voted the best coach of the year as Real Madrid dominated the Global Soccer Awards in Dubai. The Spanish side were also named the best team of the year. 5-time Ballon d'Or winner won a La Liga and Champions League double with Madrid last year, striking twice against Juventus in the European Cup final to help Real become the first team to retain the trophy in its current format. Real Madrid and Portugal striker was presented with his trophy by former Juventus and Italy international Alessandro Del Piero in a studio in Madrid.
Well, for me it's a special moment. I feel very happy to receive this award. I have to say thank you to my teammates, to my coach, to Real Madrid. It was an amazing year. We win a lot of trophies, collective and myself individual. So I'm so glad. Thank you the people who voting on me. Next year, do it the same. And thank you very much and have a great night. Thank you, guys.
Zinedine Zidane won Best Coach of the Year for his part in the club's success.
Thank you for this prize once again. I would like to thank my president, to Real Madrid, for giving me the opportunity to coach this team, this incredible team, and all of the players, and of course thank and congratulate all of my players, because without them, this would not have been possible. And of course, I would like to thank all of the coaches, because I have had many: Marcelo Lippi, Fabio Capello.
The 45-year-old Zidane took charge of Real in January of 2016 and has led them to consecutive Champions League trophies and their first La Liga title since 2012, as well as winning the UEFA Super Cup twice and the FIFA Club World Cup. Roger Federer visited Rottnest Island in Perth, Australia, ahead of his participation in the Hopman Cup and the Australian Open, with the world number 2 stating that any tournament victory be a bonus after a remarkable comeback from injury in 2017. Federer is expected to contest a final for at least one Grand Slam title in 2018, but the man himself is not feeling any pressure. The 2017 campaign saw him recover from a serious knee injury to lift both the Australian and Wimbledon crowns. Federer also said he's in good shape for the new campaign and had a trouble-free pre-season. His first tournament of the new season will be Perth's Hopman Cup, a mixed-team competition starting on Saturday. The Swiss player will also have one eye on the Australian Open, which begins on January the 15th. Indonesian football teams are scheduled to vie against 2018 World Cup qualifier Iceland in friendly matches slated for January 11th and 14th. The friendly matches are part of the team's preparations for international sports, including the Asian Games and the World Cup that's scheduled for next year. The Indonesia Football Association said the matches against Iceland would be used to improve the performance of national football team players prior to 2018, the Asian Games, which are scheduled to commence in August. In its Indonesian tour, the Iceland national team will bring 22 players.
You're listening to the Beijing Hour. 60 minutes of comprehensive news. Your window on China and the world.
50 minutes past the hour, returning to entertainment. Well, this year, the number of cultural TV shows have explored China's rich heritage and literature and the arts. CRI has taken stock of some of the best cultural shows in 2017. Launched early this year, the variety show The Reader narrates true life stories through literature. Every episode features selected guests reading excerpts from their favorite literary classics. They also share their own personal stories, explaining why that particular piece holds special meaning for them. The show became a nationwide sensation after its debut. The Reader has also renewed the public's interest in reading. Similar reading events have popped up all over the country. National Treasure, a history program looking beyond documentary, drama, and reality, is dedicated to promoting the protection of priceless cultural pieces and legacies. Each episode features 3 artifacts presented by a celebrity and an expert who acts as the National Treasure Keeper. The keepers tell the stories behind these masterpieces and uncover the mysteries that surround them. The series has made a splash on social media, with many internet users saying the show has brought ancient China to life by using cultural relics as a carrier to represent the nation's great history. The second season of Chinese Poetry Conference has been a dark horse in terms of popularity. The game showed the top competitors' memory and ability to recite Chinese poetry. The competitors come from all walks of life, with people as young as 8 years old and as old as 60. Chinese Poetry Conference helps emphasize traditional culture in education. Many viewers said they came to realize the beauty of the Chinese language and classical poetry thanks to that show, with some children saying they were inspired to start learning and reciting poems. Letters Alive is a literary television show that asks Chinese celebrities to read aloud memorable letters from history written by ordinary people, moving audiences to both tears and laughter. The show lets viewers share the happiness, sadness, excitement, and pain of a moment all together. It's the power of language that builds a bridge between words and emotions in Letters Alive. Bravo China, TV show featuring performances by outstanding opera enthusiasts from around the country, has been a hit. While netizens have complimented the show for encouraging the younger generation to admire an old art form. In 2017, China's box office surged to new heights thanks to Hollywood franchise movies and homegrown action film Wolf Warriors 2. Studios are gearing up for the Chinese New Year holiday in February, which is one of the biggest box office weekends of the entire year. Film critic James Marsh.
I think there are 3 big films that we can expect to do very, very well. You've got Soi Chiang's The Monkey King 3, where you'll see Aaron Kwok come back and play Sun Wukong again. We have Tan Kai-ge's Legend of the Demon Cat, which is a Japanese-Chinese fantastical adventure story. We will also see Monster Hunt 2, which they've obviously got a lot of anticipation for, a lot of faith in. They really have high expectations for this film. So I think those 3 we can expect big things from.
Well, since Wolf Warrior 2, a Chinese action movie about a special forces soldier, took the #1 spot at the box office in 2017, there's likely to be more military action movies hot on its heels. Leading example is Operation Red Sea by Hong Kong veteran Dante Lam. The film, which is loosely based on the evacuation of 600 Chinese nationals during the Yemen Civil War in 2015, will be released in China on Chinese New Year's Day. A play comprising 5 short stories by Lao She returns to Beijing after its recent 2-month nationwide tour. 5 Acts of Life offers a vivid view of Chinese society from 1898, the end of the Qing dynasty, to 1948. Lao She's short stories had never been adapted for theater. The play, directed by Lin Jiahua, premiered with great success at the Hong Kong Arts Festival with 4 sold-out shows in March of 2010, and has toured the country every year since then with hundreds of performances. And every year, commemorative programs like staging plays written by Lao She, which include Tea House, Rickshaw Boy, 4 Generations Under One Roof, and The Peking Man, are held to pay tribute to Lao She, whose original name was Xu Qingchun. Regarded as one of the literary giants of the country, Lao She is noted for his works with a strong Beijing flavor and a vivid depiction of human nature. 5 Acts of Life will return to Beijing on January the 2nd. A museum of archaeology is to be built in Shanxi province, where the terracotta warriors and horses were discovered. Construction of the Shanxi Museum of Archaeology started Thursday in Chang'an district of the provincial capital, Xi'an. The museum will include exhibition areas, a technical protection center, as well as a tourist information center. At an estimated cost of 540 million yuan, the museum will cover 36,000 square meters. Shanxi is famous for its rich archaeological resources, including the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang and the Terracotta Warrior Army. We're at 56 minutes past the hour now. Beijing is to be cloudy and 4 degrees Celsius today, a low down to -1. Guangzhou's cloudy and 23, then a low of 14. Xiamen sunny and 23, a low 14. Taipei is getting a light rain and 20, a low of 17. Sanchez cloudy and 27, then a low of 24. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be sunny and 23. Kabul is sunny and +3 Celsius. In North America, Washington, D.C. will be cloudy and 0 Celsius on the day. In Africa, Nairobi is getting a light rain in 24, Kampala moderate rain in 26, and finally to Oceania, Canberra is overcast in 33, Port Vila a light rain in 29 degrees Celsius. That's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news this morning, Chinese president and the country's envoys to foreign countries have met and talked about their major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Begum in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and go to the world together.
我要学汉语 I want to learn Chinese.
其实并不难 It can be fun.
欢乐汉语 Chinese Studio.
It's movie week on Chinese Studio. Welcome to the show, everyone. 我是 Cam.
我是亚杰 Cam, every year they're blockbuster movies. Those that cost a lot of money to make and are major releases for studios. So, do you know how to say blockbuster in Chinese?
No.
Don't worry, listen up. Keywords of the day. Blockbuster. 大片 Box office. 票房 Premiere. 首映 Cinema. 电影院 Are there any new blockbusters coming out soon? 最近有什么新的大片 All in today's Chinese studio. Now you may know the Chinese for blockbuster is
大片
Good. 大片, which literally means big film. Here, it's an informal way of calling a large-budget movie with widespread popularity.
I see. 大片. So I can say the latest 大片 blockbuster, Harry Potter, has hit the box office.
That's a very good example. Here you just mentioned box office, which in Chinese is 票房.
票房.
票房 literally means an office selling tickets. 票 means ticket.
票.
房 means the room or office.
房.
票房 box office.
Here it means the ability to attract ticket buyers. 票房.
这部大片的票房如何？
这部大片的票房不错。Cam, you know what? I'm invited to be the MC for the premiere in a 5-star cinema.
Wow, yeah, Jia. For which movie's premiere?
I'll let you know later. First, do you know how to say premiere in Chinese?
No, and I'd like to know how to say cinema as well.
No problem. Premiere is 首映.
首映.
首 means the first time.
首.
映 means to show a film.
映.
首映. To show a film for the first time.
首映. Then what's the Chinese for cinema?
It's 电影院.
电影院. Yeah, Jip, now can you tell me which premiere you are going to?
It's just a short video clip of my friend's birthday.
Yeah, Jia, you said it was at a 5-star cinema.
Sorry, it's just a cinema called 5 Star.
Yeah, Jia.
这部大片将在哪里举行首映？
据说将在北京电影院举行首映。
Yeah, Jip, are there any new blockbusters coming out anytime soon?
I guess the controversial memoirs of a geisha will meet the audience pretty soon. It has your favorite movie star in it.
Ah, yes, good old Zhang Ziyi is my favorite. And I know she keeps practicing her English.